Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about my ayahuasca experience. I have been spending probably the past few years trying to get more settled from a mental health perspective. Um, I think even just throughout my life growing up, we have different insecurities, different worries, all the things, but we just kind of go through things and deal with things in whatever, immediate way we need to and have to. But I think throughout the pandemic, which I think a lot of us can relate to, it was a rocky period. And I was getting to a point, especially I think in my career and life in general, where I was getting to a point where I was very unhappy. Really, I think if I had to put it simply, nothing really felt good. And the things that I was doing and succeeding in and doing well in wasn't giving me the type of satisfaction that not that I wanted, but I didn't, it didn't feel good, right? I was making money, I was doing well in my job, and I was doing my job well. And it did not translate in the way that I expected. It didn't feel and register the way that I wanted it to, if that makes sense. And so I had been doing some research on everything, various topics, therapy, um, meditation, anything and everything, really, to try and get a handle on my mental state and my mental health. And the topic of ayahuasca came up a bunch because of just a variety of podcasts that I was listening to. And and I'm not new to plant medicine in the sense of like I've experimented with cannabis. I think a lot of people have, but not in a plant medicine perspective, right? It was very recreational, and I've shifted a lot in figuring out what works for me and what I'm using things for. I'm very more clear in what I'm looking to get out of any of these plant medicines tools that I'm using. So aside from cannabis, though, I hadn't really experimented with any plant medicines as such, and I wasn't thinking about it really from a um, mental health perspective, right? So these podcasts bring ayahuasca to the forefront, and I got curious, and I started doing a lot of research and looking into this topic. One person in particular that some of you probably would know is Aubrey Marcus. He talked a lot about this, and he talks a lot about this on his podcast. And he specifically cited some experiences with a certain, I guess you could call him a shaman, yeah, but curandero. His name is Don Howard Lawler. Um, and he I think he was one of Aubrey Marcus's maestros, or sort of people that Aubrey Marcus worked with to get healing and work with this particular plant medicine. So in listening to Don Howard talk and me doing a bunch of other research on the topic, I really felt like I was called in a way to work with this plant medicine. And I know that sounds a little weird, maybe to some. And it wasn't like, okay, no, I need to do this now. It wasn't like that, but I was very intrigued because it didn't register to me as something that it's a flyby thing where you give it a shot. It really felt like it was something that was much more spiritual, much more deeper, much more holistic. And there's so many really good videos on YouTube about ayahuasca, but in particular, again, for me, this is what I felt connected to most authentically was Don Howard talking about this particular topic. And as I listened, I really felt like something tells me that I want to work with this medicine because I think it's going to help. And again, this was a time that it was not a fun time. And again, this was, as I said, it yo-yoed 2020, 2021, 2022. I've gone up and down, up and down. I've talked to friends about it, family about it. It's frustrating sometimes when you feel like you have an idea of how you want to feel and you still can't get there. I didn't expect to get emotional with this, but so I was doing, research on the topic, and it really, I felt called to it because I realized, okay, I need to get a handle on my life because it's just not, you get the sense sometimes, I did, you're not getting the most out of life. There's so much to be thankful for in life. I have a lot to be thankful for. And still when I'm not, it was starting to it was it was frustrating. I was just like, I feel like I'm living on 50%. And I feel like I can see the 70, 80, 90% that's there and I can't access it. So I thought to myself, okay. And by this time, I was doing some meditation. I was doing some therapy, and it was helping. It was all helping, but I still felt like I'm not getting to that place that I'm feeling peaceful in my mind, clear in my mind, in some of the goals that I want to pursue. And for me, it's always been a lot of doubt, a lot of fear at its very core. But the reason I'm saying all this is I want to explain to why I got to this decision. It wasn't a light decision. It was a long decision where I took time to think through. So Don Howard founded Spirit Quest, the Spirit Quest Sanctuary in Peru. The shirt that I'm wearing is it's called a smiling jaguar. It's sort of the symbol of the Spirit Quest Sanctuary. And I made a point to bookmark it. I bookmarked the website. I bookmarked a bunch of Don Howard's videos on YouTube, and I would watch it from time to time. And I really, really felt a lot of benefit from listening to this and getting a better understanding of what this medicine is, how it helps people, how some people have benefited from it. I knew that I was like, okay, I found out about this place. I found out about this plant medicine. It's great, but I'm not ready yet. But I have it in the back pocket. And I think I had that hunch that I knew I wanted to work with this medicine. And so 2022 kind of went on. And I think around April, May of 2022, I was having some career issues in terms of just having to finish up a contract, get a new one, just stuff. And I was not happy. I was not happy, and and again, I jumped into another job, knowing that I'm not sure really what I want right now. I know I need to pay bills and do work and do what I have to do. And this also, again, to clue you into my kind of time here, I've been acting, or I've been pursuing acting since late 2019. And so by this time, I've been on and off acting in terms of as a side thing because I still have my day job. But this disruption in my day job also had a negative impact mentally for me, but also had a negative impact on my acting work because I was getting overwhelmed to some degree with managing auditions and my day job, and it was not great. So I actually had to put a hold on my acting stuff for a bit. My agent was kind enough to say, okay, let me know when you're good to go again. So I put that on pause, and then I was, I think I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to get some help. And I think it was May of 2022, where I was just going through a period of just being down, lost, confused, worried about everything. And I pulled the trigger with Spirit Quest. I started looking and doing research in terms of what the application process was. I mentioned Don Howard. Unfortunately, Don Howard passed away a couple of years back. I forget which exact year. Not too long ago. But even from the time I found out he had passed, about him. But I knew his daughter was still running the sanctuary. And I kind of had faith and trust that somebody who started something like this, and he had made it his sort of life's purpose, and it was really a vocation for him to heal people and work with this medicine. I had confidence that this was still being run in a way that keeps to that spirit and standard of care. And I also knew that some of the shamans that work at, I don't even want to say work, but that work with Spirit Quest are curanderos and ayahuasqueros that have been doing this generationally, 2, 3, 4 generations. I'm using some words and terms that might be new to you. If you look up the topic of ayahuasca and healers that work with ayahuasca, you're an ayahuasquero if you are a healer that works with ayahuasca. A curandero, I think, is generally a term I think used for a plant medicine healer, a shamanic healer. But again, I'm not claiming to be an expert in the terminology. I'm still learning in a lot of ways. There's just a lot of information, and a lot of this is traditional information that is now being brought out to the forefront, culturally. So do your research, of course, in educating yourself on terms that I might be using that you might be like, I have no idea what he's saying. But I had faith that that Spirit Quest was, still the place that I wanted to go and work with. And I pulled the trigger in May. I did the research in terms of the application process, started reaching out. Don Howard's daughter, Selva, who's fantastic, corresponded with me, and we kind of went through the application process. And at a point I was like, I'm not sure if I'll get accepted, because it's not a type of thing working with this particular plant medicine where it's like, I'm just going to show up and do it. It doesn't work that way. And I wasn't sure if I was going to get accepted. And I put it through, and I thought, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And it came back, and she was like, yeah, I think you're actually a good candidate for our retreat. And I was like, okay, awesome. And so I quickly jumped on it, and I registered. And I didn't register immediately in terms of my retreat time frame. I was like, I need to get a couple of things together. I also started my contract recently, so I can't just mess with my job. I have a responsibility to my team. So I ended up booking my retreat for end of October of 2023. Sorry, end of October of 2022. I started making the payments. I registered, and I kind of put it out of my mind for a bit. I was like, it's in October. It's May, June now. I have other stuff to do. And, I just kind of let time go. And then I started bringing it up with my family and telling them, hey, I'm doing this retreat, this meditation retreat. And my mom was like, what? Okay, cool. And I that's one thing I've tried my best to be honest and upfront with my family about, is my mental state, in that I'm not doing well. I talk to them. I hope people have that chance and opportunity to do that with all their families. I know that's not always clear, and it's not like my family understands every little thing that I'm trying to say either, but they listen and they care. And so I just take the opportunity to just word vomit, get it out, right? Because if I'm not good at keeping stuff in. So I tell them, and they were like, okay, all right, sure, right? Because they'd known that I wasn't doing well for a little while, and And I was starting to give them a little more detail, and my brother quickly he latched onto the fact that he's like, is this a psychedelic retreat in Peru? And I was like, yeah. um, and he's like, okay, man, just be careful. That's true. This is not something that you fool around with. But I knew for myself why I was doing this. This is not for fun. This is not for recreation. I need help. I want to get better. I need help. That's really what this was. And saying that, also, just to quickly point out, one thing about Spirit Quest, and not to say that other retreats don't bring this up very specifically, but Spirit Quest was very clear in reminding everybody, or through the application process, that this is not psychedelic tourism. Please don't think this is something that you are going to come and do to have a memorable experience so you can take it back and talk about it. This is work. Work with all caps. Work. This is not a joke. This is not easy. This is not a walk in the park. This is difficult work. But there are immense benefits if you're willing to be disciplined, dedicated, and put the work in. So, my family was starting to get on the same page, which always makes me feel better because, I do tend to march to the beat of my own drum, not in a crazy way, but yeah, I operate a little differently, but I always feel that much more safer and comfortable when my family's on board, in terms of maybe not fully agreeing with it, but at least understanding my need to do it. And they did, which I appreciated. Time was moving on and it was getting closer to October. And I think what's so interesting is I was mentally already starting to feel better because I knew this was coming up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you've already set something up further down the road, like a pit stop that you're going to get there. So you're almost like, I'm good. Like, I know it's not fun right now, but I'm getting to somewhere. I'm going towards something. And that was really good. So, I was doing a little better mentally, actually, and getting towards October. October finally comes, and I go.